Hey,
Ooh, what's up? We gotta do our smile.
we did it.
Smile, people.
Cheese.
Cheese! Or cheers for this episode.
Cheers
Because
for this
today
episode. Oh,
we
hold
are
on.
talking about alcohol. Um,
Cheers.
we want to help you figure out how to find out whether alcohol is healthy for you in
Your
your
life,
life.
your
Because
goals.
I think it's always a topic of discussion that doesn't always get talked about in nutrition. Like, well, what about the wine or the beer or the
Right.
whiskey or
It's
whatever
not
alcohol
on a
drink
lot of
you like to
trackers.
enjoy? So, is it healthy for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, or I don't know.
Oh,
Sorry.
as with most things in nutrition,
It depends.
I'm sorry. It does, but it's not terribly difficult to figure out if it's for you or not. I feel like it's hard because there are science out there that are like, you live longer if you
Yeah.
have a glass of wine a day, or,
And
um,
the
you know,
problem with those types of studies is those are correlation studies. So basically, what they did is they just interviewed 1,000 people, and they found that a majority of those people, so 501 people, lived to be longer than the people who didn't
um,
drink a glass of wine every single night. So the
the
people that live longer probably were doing a lot of other things in their life that led to them living longer,
right.
and genetic makeup,
That's
just to
like a
begin with.
part of the story. It's not the whole
It's not the whole
story.
story.
And
Exactly.
then, there's the science that says that there are antioxidants in wine,
Hmm.
or other alcohol things have certain components in them that could be beneficial to your
Beer is made out
health.
of hops, and hops is a vegetable, so beer
Right.
is good for you
Sometimes.
sometimes. But
But there's also the scientific fact that it takes our body a certain amount of effort to break down those
mhm,
alcohols. It's considered a toxin, which obviously you can't drink and drive. It does impair your judgment. It does affect how your liver functions. If your body is taking too much time breaking down those toxins, it's not going to be able to focus on the other things that
mhm,
environmentally come into our bodies. Um, the other things that make us sick, that our body has to
yep.
metabolize.
And all
So
of the
it's
foods.
science on both sides. You
Mhm,
can have the antioxidants that are good for you scientifically, but it takes your body effort,
yeah,
and that can
you're
be overly taxing.
overly stressful on the
So
body.
it's
And
scientifically on both sides. That's why we say these studies are really hard, um,
well, and another
to
thing
make a
too is
judgment whether or not it's for you.
with a lot of those things, like with beer and with wine, like, oh, there's antioxidants, or oh, there's vitamins in it. Like, yeah, there is, but there's also a lot more vitamins in broccoli. Like, we already know
Right.
broth is healthy for you, but like, just because there's a little bit of this, I think it's like resveratrol or something like that in wine, there's not a significant amount of it in wine for you to have a positive impact on your life unless you drink a lot of wine, and then the alcohol is going to outweigh that negative side of it. So, kind of like moral of the story is, don't drink alcohol for the health benefits.
Right.
Drink it because you enjoy it. And when you do drink it to enjoy it, you need to make sure that you are drinking light to in moderation. So, like, for example,
Right.
there's the in America, I think it's the USDA, and in the UK, a lot of countries kind of have
Their own
their own
guidelines of
guidelines,
what moderation actually means.
but they're all pretty
They're
close.
relatively close,
So,
yeah.
like, for example, what in the I think it's the USD. I could be wrong, but
The U.S. standards.
what moderation means for women is up to 7 drinks in a week and not more than 3 in a day. So
Right.
obviously, you don't want to have 4 one night and 3 another night and be like, "Oh, I had my 7." That's actually not healthy for you either.
Right. The
Um,
the overall tax that it takes on your body in that
mhm.
one instance is a lot.
Exactly. And then for men, it's up to 14 in a week and not more than 4 at one specific time.
Now, also, these are general guidelines, so remember, like, not everybody is my size.
Yep.
Not every woman is my height, my weight. It differs. And you kind of, I think your tolerance level. If
Yeah.
you're starting to get buzzed after half a glass of wine,
Hmm.
you know that 7 a week is probably a little excessive for you.
Yeah.
It's beyond the moderation. And same for guys, too. Um, the other thing about most people will say, well, yes, most of the time I drink in moderation. But it adds up. So if you have a glass of wine Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and you go out on Friday and have 2 drinks, and then you go out on Saturday or you're hanging out with family and you have
more drinks,
3 beers or whatever, you're already over your limit. Even if you're like day drinking and you spread it out and only have 3 beers in a day, that still will max you out. So people tend to underestimate what they're at.
And you also have to figure out what is a drink. So a drink is different for each kind of alcohol type. So like wines, for example, 5 ounces is considered a drink. I think I want to say off the top of my head at 12% alcohol. So if you have a wine that has a higher percent alcohol, then you're actually having more than one quote unquote drink. So like an easy example is like beer, for example. A drink of beer with recommendations is 5 ounces of a beer at 5% alcohol. Well, if you like IPAs, like I do, typical IPA is going to have 8% alcohol. So
one of the ones we had last weekend was
so like
10.
Yeah. So you're actually
and they're in the taller cans too.
So you're actually having 2 servings of
one
beer. So you have to be careful of that. Another one that's easy to kind of overconsume is like with hard alcohols, because 1.5 ounces is considered a drink,
which is like just
not even a shot.
Yeah,
that's like that's like not even a full shot. So you have to be careful of that. So depending on however you're drinking, I think the biggest thing is to make sure that you're drinking light and into moderation. Okay, kind of based off of those recommendations as a guideline, as kind of make sure you're not drinking more than that, obviously. But when you do drink because you enjoy it and it brings some sort of value to your life, whether that's pleasure, leisure, you know what I mean? Sometimes even creativity. Like we found out when we were
wedding planning
that
don't ask me my opinion on anything until I've had at least 1 glass of wine. I am indecisive as all get out. 1 glass of wine is like the magic number.
And she's ready to change the
world. Yes, it is true. But I can make decisions. Like it lowers my, I guess you could say, inhibitions or my overthinking.
Yep.
And I feel confident in the decisions that I'm making for myself, which is also part of things that I'm realizing with my personal growth journey. But that's a whole nother talk. So there are certain things that are helpful, and that social connection, laughing and having fun about the same things with those lowered inhibitions. But like we've talked about already, is like the drunk driving and people thinking that they're kind of invincible. Like
it's kind of a double-edged sword. There's good things and there's bad things that go kind of with it.
So how do we know when maybe we need to pump the brakes? Like when do we know we need to maybe take a break or make a change?
So kind of looking at your life, like try not to drink as a habit. You know what I mean? Like maybe you come home and you have a beer or a glass of wine or whatever every single day. Like, are you having that because you want it, or are you having it because it's a habit?
Yeah.
And it could be hard to figure that out. And
sometimes life happens and you maybe like 2 or 3 weeks of just drinking every night and you're like, whoa, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Take it back. Can't take it back, but like, let's pump it back a little bit. I mean, it's happened in our household, especially over the holidays.
Yeah, it happened, I think it was 3 years ago. It was through the holidays we found that, through the holidays we would drink a little bit more at home. Then people would give us a bottle of wine. People would give you beer, and you drinking, and then next thing you know, you're drinking like 4 or 5 nights out of the 7. So you got to be careful about those habits, because those habits are strong and then they continue to carry over. We noticed like February, March, we were still drinking. It was like, hey, why are we drinking so much? It became a habit of what we did. Yeah. So we kind of had to pump the brakes a little bit, and we didn't go cold turkey.
No, it was like, okay, when would we? Here's the deal. You know your body. You know your mindset. Sometimes you do have to say, reset.
Yeah.
I need to take a break. I'm not sleeping well. I can't focus at work. I'm not, like, there are things that happen when alcohol is not a healthy part of your life. So what is it? It's not sleeping well, not able to focus at work. You're like thinking about, well, when do I get to have my next glass of wine, my next drink? Like, oh, I need to plan this event so I can go out drinking with my friends. Like,
most people know when it's bad.
But there are some subtle hints that your body
Yeah.
will give you that it's not like that.
Great,
The sleeping is a big one. I think we talked about that last week when we talked about sleep. Is that it helps you fall asleep faster, but it doesn't
Mhm.
allow you to sleep fully.
Yep, exactly.
And that's that whole rabbit hole we already went down last week. So are you using alcohol to manage your stress? Is it a habit?
Mhm.
Those kinds of things are the ones to look out for.
And not drinking, like obviously, like sometimes you drink socially, but don't drink just because everybody else is drinking. Like if
Right.
you don't want to drink, then don't drink. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't fall into that peer pressure. You know what I mean? And ultimately, finding out for you, like we talked about, don't drink because it's quote unquote healthy. Like drink because you enjoy it, and it might bring you some more mental, psychological health rather
Right.
than necessarily physical health.
Yeah, there are some pros and cons for sure.
So we want to give you. So one of the what you talked about, and we talk about everything is listening to your body. Your body will kind of give you a good.
So people say
signal.
listen to your body, and then they don't give you anything to go off of what the heck that actually means.
So we want to give you 7 things.
7 steps.
7 steps. Not necessarily steps. Like it's not like 1, 2, 3. We want to give you 7. Yeah, they don't have to go in order. We just want to give you 7 parameters or ideas, thinking points to help you be in tune and listen to your body and what it's saying. Number 1 is to observe your current drinking habits. You know what I mean? Like don't necessarily change right now unless you feel like you need to make a change, but write down for the next 2 or 3 weeks when you drink, how much you drink, how you feel before you drink, how you feel during your drink, and how you feel after you drink.
Next day matters too.
Think of it as like a big science experiment. Like just write down everything. Is that Alice?
Yeah.
Oh, Alice, you missed our
alcohol talk.
Our alcohol talk. Well, you're in the alcohol talk, but
we talked. Sorry, Alice was our wedding planner,
and she's the one that helped us figure out that Ronnie needed a glass of wine to talk.
Taught me a lot.
Or make decisions. So thank you, Alice.
Sorry, random.
Sorry.
But great timing, Alice.
Yes. So number 1 is observe your current drinking habits and just
notice any themes, any patterns.
Don't draw any conclusions. Just go 2 or 3 weeks.
Notice is a powerful tool. Just see what it is. No judgments. Don't be mad at yourself. Just be honest.
And then once you're done with that, you kind of take things on a continuum. Like maybe you are drinking a little bit more than you thought you were. Okay, so like how can you dial that back a little bit?
Yeah, maybe kind of create a little bit of a plan. Like where could you cut back?
And focus on being a little bit better rather than perfect.
Yeah.
Number 2 is notice how it affects your body. You know what I mean? How do you feel? Do you feel bloated after you drink alcohol? Maybe the next day. Do you feel? Yeah. Are you feeling dehydrated? You know what I mean? Definitely. Like maybe you're drinking too much. How is it? How are you not feeling recovered from a sleep standpoint, or even in your workout the next day? You know what I mean? How is it affecting your body?
Like the cravings and the eating habits that come with alcohol too.
Yep,
Those are other body signs that you can look at.
Yep.
Number 3.
Notice how it affects your thoughts, emotions, assumptions, and kind of overall outlook on life. When you have a drink, is it a positive experience or is it a negative experience? Like maybe you just...
Is it a Band-Aid on a wound that maybe we need to address those deeper feelings? And it's not actually helping, but it's kind of holding you back a little bit.
Yep, exactly. And again, that's kind of just a hold that notice and name idea.
Yep.
Number 4, play a game with yourself called Let's Make a Deal.
Make a deal.
I really like this idea of trade-offs. Okay, so we have to look at the quality of life that we want to have and
the things that
we're actually doing. So maybe it's something as simple as like, if I want to have 6-pack abs, I probably can't have beer on the weekends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Having those different trade-offs. You have to, if you're going to say yes to something, you have to say no to something else.
If you really want to do that workout at 5 o'clock in the morning, you're probably going to have to say no to alcohol the night before. Or, maybe just 1 glass of wine with friends instead of hanging out all night long.
Yeah.
There's a yes. Every time you say yes to something, you
You're
are
saying
saying no to something else. So just be aware of that. Let's make a deal game. Like, if I'm going to do this, what's going to be the this thing?
Yep.
And then that goes into also, what was the other one?
What were you going to say?
There was something on your notes that I liked.
So, number 5 is to disrupt the autopilot. You know what I mean? So you come home
Craving that beer.
and you're craving that beer or that glass of wine.
Bubble water.
Give yourself, that's one of my big ones. Was
tip.
to delay it for 10 to 15 minutes. Like, if you have an urge to have a drink, maybe set a timer at 15, 20 minutes and come back and say, okay, do I really want that, or was it a habit? You know what I mean? Like, why did I want that? And if you still want it at the end of it, then have that glass of wine or that beer or whatever it is that you wanted to enjoy. But making sure you are enjoying it. You're not just downing it to wash away stuff. Change your patterns, you know what I mean? Make sure you're savoring. I have trouble with that word. Savoring your drinks. Like, truly enjoy it. You know what I mean? Think quality over quantity. Like, don't go buy a bunch of cheap light beer. Like, have an IPA or something that you really
unless you
enjoy.
really like cheap light beer, don't let his snobbiness convince you that you can't drink what you enjoy. But, like, take the time to enjoy it.
Number 6 is to call on the experts. You know what I mean? Talk to your doctor about it. Like, okay,
get your blood work if you're worried about it. See where your liver's at.
Check your blood pressure. You know what I mean? Things like that.
Apple Watch. Get that sleep. Maybe not Apple Watch. There's a lot of like sleep apps and stuff that can make sure that you're actually getting a good night's sleep. Just those other health markers, Yep,
and you can even get
the numbers.
You can even get it like a genetic test. I don't know too much about like what companies, but you can get genetic tests that can kind of look at how tolerant are you to alcohol.
The Boggses are fairly tolerant by blood, not necessarily by marriage.
And then kind of lastly, you can talk to nutrition coaches. Obviously, we have
it's okay, but also counseling. So if we're talking about experts too, if you're trying to figure out how to fit it into your healthy diet, I love talking about that stuff and helping people figure out how it's going to work for you. Like, what life do you want, and how do we build a plan that's going to fit your life? I love talking about that. But if you find yourself drinking because other emotional stuff going on, or you're constantly like trying to escape, counseling is huge. I know now more than ever, I think people are actually reaching out. The stigma is finally settling down on whether or not that's a good thing. It's a great thing if you need it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely 100%. And then, last but not least, if you are going to choose to drink, please enjoy it.
If we haven't said it enough, right? That's the point of life, is to enjoy the things that you decide to consume, mentally, physically, food, movement.
Exactly.
Enjoy it. And I think that's.
And I think that's a great way to sum it up too. Like,
and if you're not enjoying it and you're not enjoying how you feel, you do not have to do it.
Exactly.
It's kind of, I like the idea of writing your own owner's manual.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that's going to make you feel your best? And sometimes it is a little glass of wine, and sometimes it's not.
Exactly. 100%.
We contemplated having wine while we were doing this tonight, and I was like, not feeling it.
No, I didn't want one either, so I decided not to have one as well.
So, there you go, folks. If you have any questions, as always, please, please, please ask. DM, ask on here.
Text, email, phone call. Whatever your means of communication.
Favorite communications are.
Reach out.
We're here for you. All right, guys.
All right.
Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next week.
All right.
I think that's it.
That's it.
All right.
Peace out, y'all. Bye.